Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of 6 Degrees of Associations. I'm your host, Lucas McCann. With me today is Maureen Geoghegan, Chief Membership and Communications Officer at the American Society of Anesthesiologists. Welcome, Maureen.
Thanks, Lucas. How are you?
I'm doing great. And as we mentioned for show, I'm very thankful for all anesthesiologists. This one hits home as I've had, plenty of surgeries and had the benefit of some great doctors. Not the point of the show, but I, thought I'd mention it. As I often do, I'll turn it over to you, Maureen. Tell us a little bit more about your current role and how you found this crazy world of associations.
I am at ASA as the Chief Membership and Communications Officer. And I got to associations many years ago now, but at that point I was in marketing and advertising, working for advertising agencies in Chicago. And really kind of came to a crossroads of my career where I love working for the clients and advocating for clients' communication strategies and communication needs, and found that became a conflict with sometimes the agency's priorities. And so I felt like I was really getting tugged between what the agency needed and what the client needed. And so at that time, I really looked at how to forge a path to go kind of client side, and so I could sort of more holistically and more be more focused on the client's behalf. And so I started just looking at different sectors. The healthcare sector was one. The food and restaurant and hospitality sector was another, because that was where I had some client experience, and then associations. And I started to kind of combine the idea, as I was looking at options, healthcare and associations. And so that's how I, sort of started the association route. I was not an association executive from the start. So found my way to the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and was there for 16 years in a marketing communication strategy capacity, and then came to ASA about 5 years ago now, in a new role at that time, bringing together marketing, communications, publications, and public relations in more of a cohesive way, and then have since evolved into a communications and membership strategic role, which again is new to ASA, and in some cases I think a trend or a new opportunity for associations in general.
Yeah. So Chief Membership and Communications Officer is talking a little bit for the show. It's a title that, if we roll the clock back 10 or 15 years, that title didn't exist. And it very much makes sense within associations if you think about the primary goal of creating a community, if you will, and communicating value. In my organizations, it's really talking about member benefits, member value. And so having somebody sort of at the chief role, holding the champion stick, if you will, of brand and communications, that completely makes sense. Can you talk to us a little bit about at ASA what falls under your purview?
Sure. And I think you're exactly right. I mean, 5-10 years ago, as chief marketing officers and sort of CMO, presence in the C-suite in the for-profit world became more prevalent. I think associations are catching up to that and expanding on it. So I think you're right. Who should be in the C-suite? Who should be representing the members, the customers? As far back as when I was a marketing manager for AAOS, we always said we are the voice of the customer. We are representing the member at every table. And that's really a philosophy that we, doubled down on there. And then certainly that's a foundation of our team's activity here at ASA, really remembering that no matter what, we need to be the voice of the customer. We need to understand the member, and we need to understand them on a real human level, not just who they are to us, as someone to count on a membership role, but who are they in their work lives? Who are they in their personal lives? Who are they to the community of the specialty of anesthesiology? And the more we can understand, what their challenges, motivations, and issues are, the more we as a community organizer, a society, an association, can help them problem solve and be their partner. So I think that's really the philosophy. And I know, so many people and in colleagues I've had where, that passion, that interest in being an advocate for a member, a customer, a stakeholder, that's what sort of dictates or leans us into being able to have a seat at the C-suite and be at those tables and have be part of strategic conversations and strategic leadership. It's not just an end of the line. Here are the benefits. Go sell membership. And so I think that confluence of both people who have come into the association space with this philosophy and with the skills and expertise in strategic marketing and management and customer relationships and things like that. That's really, I think, what's driving this role. And I've seen it in other organizations as well. For our team, personally, we oversee and manage the membership proposition, the value proposition, plus all the operations and data management around membership and invoice collection and all that good stuff that comes with it. But we also prop up a pretty robust qualitative and quantitative research enterprise, largely brought together by a passion for trying to understand the member as a person.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert for everyone who works in with very high level, high functioning medical professionals and subspecialists. Spoiler, they're humans too. So that's if you can understand that, that's pretty helpful.
Yeah, and hopefully they always will be humans. Just my personal perspective, but I think there's a place for robots. That's not the point for the show, but today. But I enjoy having humans again as my anesthesiologists, just bedside manner and otherwise. I think your background, Maureen, is perfect for that C-suite role as well. I think the world of marketing has just sort of blossomed into a very, very big world. And understanding, as you mentioned, all the qualitative and quantitative aspects of marketing and brand. And you see these companies out here who have built on brand, the Apples of the world, that Nike's, and now they've written books about how important brand is, and it can create a feeling. Do you think about those type of brands when you talk about member communication and branding and marketing within associations?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think associations should sell themselves short and not see themselves, as real viable and important brands. I've seen I've seen and heard a lot of marketers in the association space could be concerned about, hey, we're kind of end of the line. Hey, we made this widget, we made this education program, we've got this meeting, go market it. And they're really, much more interested and provide a greater value to be part of that conversation earlier. And so I've seen that push from a lot of colleagues, and I've championed that here at ASA. We have a much broader, umbrella strategy for our communications. Certainly there are, product specific promotions that need to fit in that. But what does that whole portfolio look like? Where is I'll call it image advertising or, brand awareness, not necessarily for the association, although sometimes, but also for the member that we represent. The awareness of the brand of anesthesiologists is more important than the ASA brand really out there to, patients and the public. So that's another aspect that we think about a lot. And our philosophy is, a brand is really a promise. It's a set of expectations. Sure, we've got a great looking logo and we manage, we manage the colors and the brand identity.
Yeah, you got to have the guidelines.
Yeah, we take that seriously. But ultimately it's what that represents to a stakeholder, a member, customer. And are we delivering on that expectation and that promise?
Yeah, brand is a promise. I really like that. I haven't heard that, and I'm going to write that down. I think some of our audience probably will too. I've heard, a brand is a feeling, a brand is an experience, but a brand is a promise. That's a different lens that I think is worth thinking about. And what is the promise, for example, if you don't mind sharing? So at ASA, what is the promise lens that you sort of filter that experience through?
Yeah, I do like that idea of a promise. I think it holds everybody more accountable than just a feeling or, just an idea.
Yeah.
And really our value proposition, our promise to members is that we are their champion and ally, to preserve the specialty and to make them and keep them successful, for the purposes of, safe and effective patient care. When it comes down to a membership, brand and promise, it's really that partnership with the anesthesiologist throughout the course of their career, at every stage of their subspecialty, at every stage of their advancement, from training through retirement.
Going back to this notion of sort of meeting them where they are. I mean, you mentioned, they're people, and people have, feelings and flaws and all the things and gifts and everything. And you mentioned challenges. So what are some of the challenges that you all actively discuss and seek to solve or overcome?
Well, one of the things that we take very seriously is this holistic look at member insights and member research, and that includes the big traditional quantitative value and satisfaction studies that people do, organizations do, and should do. But also we dive deeper into that. We have a life cycle and ecosystem research process that's entirely qualitative, and really about series of interviews on a particular topic or with a particular cohort. Again, to get a deeper dive into what's keeping them up at night, what is, what are they motivated by, what challenges are they experiencing. So we really do, and then, that's coupled with, and sort of processed, along with that the qualitative and quantitative info, along with, things we're hearing from the member services team, the people on the phones, things that our member leadership is hearing, what's coming into that, president inbox, what are people, and members really, rallying about, what are we hearing on our community, our online community, what are we hearing on social, things like that. And so, one of the, big areas that we work in and is an area of concern for our members is the scope of practice, preserving physician-led care. We, at a more kind of local level, there are real production pressures. There is this is hard work, and those production pressures, coupled with payment issues, and that is not my area of expertise in the organization, but there are payment and insurance challenges for our members, and for our younger members in particular, and people coming up through training. They're so focused, and I don't think this is specific to anesthesiologists. I think it's true in other specialties I've talked to and about, but people in training in medical school and then into residency and fellowships, if people go into a particular subspecialty, they're just so focused on clinical expertise, passing the boards, figuring out how to be in an extremely competitive environment, figuring out how to operate literally and figuratively safely. And they come out of training and they don't have they've got to find a job. They don't have negotiation skills necessarily. They don't have some of the life skill support and business support that they need. So those are areas that we hear and we think, okay, let's figure out how to help people coming out of training and into their early career phase. How do we help them be more successful? What can we offer that they didn't get in residency? We're not offering clinical rotations. Are there things around the edges of that clinical space that we can help with and get them involved in leadership development and connect them with mentors and things like that? So kind of a long response, but I think it's really about looking at trying to understand again, kind of meet people where they are and where their needs are.
Yeah. I hear a lot of other associations, asking us specifically, how do we attract these younger members? How do we provide value for younger members? I think it's kind of a hot topic, and I'd be curious. Tell us a little bit about how you maybe tactically how you meet those younger members, where they are. Do you think about communicating them differently? Are you posting stuff on TikTok, or how do you reach that younger generation that is not maybe as traditional in their communications?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we're all struggling with that proposition. I think membership means something different to different generations, and there's a lot of reading and webinars and things like that on this topic. But it's very true. Our NPS scores are much higher, indicating much higher loyalty and kind of connection with the later career and even retired members than with the younger members and folks in training. And I don't think that's partly because we're changing, they're changing,
Right.
There are generational differences, but also it's about time and experience, and the more time and experience you have with a brand or an organization or an entity, the more opportunities for connection there are. So I think it's really about figuring out what those connection opportunities are. Does someone coming out of residency, have the time to be on board committees and, go up to the Hill and be a big advocate and spend a lot of time for their professional society? Not really.
No.
Some do. So there are some, full on, superstars that can do that. But, those are the exceptions and not the rule. And that's pretty much true of everyone. We have over 56,000 members. And so, they're not all going to engage in the ways that we immediately think of it as engaging, because we think, oh, we're working with committees. That's engagement. Really, that's not sustainable for 56,000 people. What's engagement
Right.
for them? So And as to your question with the younger members, one of the things that we've done is, in this, it's launched for 1 year, so still very much a work in progress. But we've built a set of unique resources for the folks coming out of training in their first 3 years of being an anesthesiologist. It's a one price for 3 years, full set of resources that kind of gets fed to them on an ongoing basis. That's very specific to the needs they've indicated as important to them. So lots about financial management, information about loan management, invitations and some free registration to some of our flagship events, including one that's more geared toward practice management and business skills, and trying to engage them in that information and those resources early on, without them having to think, oh yeah, I got to renew. We're locking you in for 3 years, and really bringing you a lot of value in the ways that they need it. Where communication, stands, we do a lot of versioning. We customize messaging for various cohorts throughout, the career stages. And we're working hard to package and repackage content in, smaller, digestible, chunks and some micro chunks, micro learning for those younger members with less time. That's harder to do. We know we need to do it, but we don't necessarily have all the operational muscle to be able to do it as effectively as we'd like. So that's an ongoing challenge.
Less time, and I would say shorter attention spans, although I feel like in general everybody has a shorter attention span than they did last year or the year before, and that's just kind of a changing cultural thing that we have to deal with from a marketing perspective. I don't know if that's going in the right or wrong direction, but it is what it is, I feel like.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't even, if I see an article I want to read, if I try to read it on my phone, I can't. Even something I'm interested in, that I know I want to read, I find I just can't do it on my phone. So
yeah, I'm scrolling looking for the bullets. Give me the top 3 or 4 items.
Exactly. Yeah. So associations are geared towards the feature articles. They're geared towards the big journal study. How do we repackage that as a list? How do we repackage that as, stackable infographic chunks? It's hard when either none of us have, too deep of a content team or, production folks that can take every article and create 5 derivatives from it, so we've got to be choosy about that. Yeah, it'd be great. And we've got, we do some of that. We've got good external partners who help us, but, that does require a kind of an umbrella content strategy. And then the folks who know how to deliver on that too. So that's a work in progress.
Yeah. Short articles, I like summaries. I'm a big fan of summaries, bullet points, pictures. I still like pictures. I think that can, the old adage, 1,000 words, I think certainly hits home more and more today. If you can put the right infographic, it can tell everything you need to, or at a high level, at least want or need to know about, a particular data set.
Right. And then that becomes inherently more shareable, which is something else that, we all like to do. So
absolutely,
that's helpful too.
I want to go back to just briefly the idea that it seems like you do regular surveying, qualitative. capture of insights, and you're packaging that up to better understand, sort of keep your finger on the pulse of the association and the market as a whole. I was recently reading an association's insight article, and I got down to the bottom and realized the information was collected in 2021, and I felt like I just wasted my time, because this was a study that either took long to put together or was clearly based on information that was somewhat antiquated, I would say, in this day and time. So what is the philosophy, or your philosophy, on how often do you take that? Is it an ongoing? Is it an annual? What's the right cadence, if you will?
For the research and insights,
Mm-hmm.
it's really ongoing. So I like to think about it as, an ongoing discipline. There are certain research activities that are, points in time. For instance, we do our membership value and satisfaction survey every 2 years. It used to be every 3. We've gotten it to be a little bit more frequent. I find if it's more frequent than that as a major study, you're not going to be able to distill the insights and put recommendations and track action against it. You just be constantly in that cycle. If you tried to do it annually, I think that'd be pretty difficult. But overall, I think the quest for insights and understanding and finding ways to share those throughout the organization, up and out, as well as what is meaningful for member leaders to hear and understand, that really needs to be an ongoing discipline. That with new information coming in as frequently and as often as possible, and being shared as frequent and acted upon as frequently and often as possible.
Yeah.
And that's really the key, I think, that acted upon. We can have all the research reports in the world, but if we can't make some incremental improvements, changes, shifts easily and quickly, with some agility, it's not worth doing.
Yeah, agree. I think there's insights that are shareable with the association, with the membership, that just kind of give them a sense of what's happening in and around them, because I'm sure, as you said, they're in their practice, they're working hard, but it's good to work on their practice sometimes, lift their head up and understand what's going around, and the ASA can be a valuable piece of knowledge for that. But also there are insights that are for the association, I would imagine, that are actionable for you all, that you take and use within your own strategic planning or daily planning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also find that sometimes member leaders can be resistant or skeptical about, research about them. And so it's also about how to package that up in ways that they see the value in it, and they don't, kind of bristle at the idea of, their colleagues being under the microscope. And so one way, that I think is useful is, all right, how does that research inform member decisions? It informs it, doesn't necessarily direct it all the time. But it can guide understanding. Even even if we do or don't go in a certain direction, it can be informed by those insights and that information. And even in things like this early career membership program I was telling you about, when we talk about that in articles or as we promote it, we're often referencing, what we heard. And I stay away from, you spoke and we listen, because I think that's that's trite. And speaking of brand promises, I think the members expect that. We don't have to tell them that. They should expect that. But we serve some of that content and those opportunities and those programs up with a nod to what we heard and why we're doing something, to just to fill a need, to solve a problem, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, using the insights to understand what are you solving for them. How is this helpful? Putting yourself in their shoes can help focus the value, just from the start of a project or a program like that. It's a good starting point, thinking about their seat, their role in the industry, and what's going to ultimately bring value to them running their business or their practice, then they're within themselves. Yeah, speaking of changing course, I want to switch gears and kind of just take a fun swipe at something. I like asking this question, and Maureen, that is, what is the one thing that you look forward to each year in your role at the association?
Annual meeting is certainly one of those things that for, most associations, it's the sun to our solar system. And so it is something that I think a lot of people look forward to it, and I do too. It's one of those opportunities where there's a tremendous sense of pride, because it's really the place where most anesthesiologists are coming together in one place, and sort of rendering the benefit of their own camaraderie, and seeing that is really fun and exciting. And then also being able to have the pride of all the team's work that goes into that, because it really, most members won't come to ASA headquarters, but over time they are exposed to an experience and participate in an annual meeting. So that really is the sort of annual headquarters for ASA, and so it's really fun to see that come together.
Yeah, I mean, as we said before, that they can go anywhere to get knowledge, and I'm sure there's an aspect of your annual meeting that is knowledge based and professional development. But again, as we said, they're people, and making connections and breaking bread and being in person, I think has for some could be very, very attractive. I know it is for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. You see them have fun with each other, in the environment of learning and in the environment of, sharing their own knowledge and things like that. But, seeing those folks, in a hallway sort of reunite after not seeing each other for a few years, or, maybe they were in training together or things like that. It really is, in 3D in real life, it's really something special.
Yeah, it's the epitome of, sort of work hard, play hard, when you get everybody together and with the intention to work hard, but there's some good amount of play, I think, that happens within that too, and we'll call it networking, but it's a good time.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, another question, you've been in associations for a few years now, and if you sort of zoom out for a second, because you have a lot of opportunities to go elsewhere. You've transitioned into associations, but you've not yet transitioned out, or maybe you won't. What keeps you embedded in the association world?
Yeah. So I just got off a 2-week vacation in Europe, and so I'm really thinking a lot more about, just leaving it all behind and making that a lot longer than 2
That
weeks.
makes sense.
That's only recency at play, probably. The thing that I think is the most rewarding and makes me really, focus on the association space is being able to help a finite group of people do what they do best. That's really meaningful work. So I've had the great fortune to work in 2 societies that are focused on medical specialists, and being able to focus specifically on people who are at the very highest level of their profession, their game, and know that they have real impact on patient care and society writ large. based on that is really rewarding. And by no means am I administering anesthetic, but in whatever way we, small way we can help support their specialty, and them as individual specialists succeed. It's really rewarding, and that's something that I think is unique to the association space, and that's very hard to get in a sort of for-profit corporate construct.
Yeah, I had not heard that before, but it's true. Even with 56,000 members, there's a focus to it, right? That you are helping a specific, tangible set of folks in a specific industry. It's not by any means retail, right, or Amazon, where you're trying to reach the world. And I think that maybe helps you focus around the experience, because it's somewhat a subset of itself, and somewhat defined already for you, to a leg up.
Right. And then that really puts the onus on all of us to continue to figure out how best to provide value to those people. Because it's beyond just membership, it's beyond just an annual meeting. We really need to think about that, on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. Well, Maureen, I hate to wrap us up, but at the end of each episode, as we talked about, I do like to ask, as part of our show, is there somebody within your network that you think our audience would benefit from hearing from?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I like this sort of, tag team, who's next idea.
Tag, you're it.
Yeah. I would suggest a mentor of mine who I met at AAOS, Jennifer Jones. She's now the executive director of AO North America, which is an orthopedic organization. And I think she would be a terrific person to talk to, and lots of fun.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the recommendation to Jennifer. I look forward to speaking with her. And thank you, Maureen, for this time. I wrote down specific nuggets. I'm sure our audience did as well. So I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and expertise.